global finals of a Players' Cup, bearing in mind you have to qualify just to be the top 256 in your region and then go down to the top 16 overall. That is an accomplishment that the majority of players just cannot boast. So let's head on over into the game then and see if this Spiritomb deck really is legit or whether Urshifu is going to continue its winning ways.
And I'm so happy we get to be seeing the Spiritomb side of things, because you can get some really funny hands with this deck, where you end up going switch, rope, switch, net, rope, switch. You can do some ridiculous combos, just dancing a couple Jirachis and getting damage counters along the way. So we'll have a good idea of what reach potential Federico has every single turn here. And Azul is going to kick things off. It's going to be a Mimikyu against an Oricorio GX. So Mimikyu actually is an annoying tech card for this Oricorio, because you can just get any damage on and then Shadowbox can prevent the Dance of Tribute. So yeah, it's a nice start for Azul to get it out on the board so early. And he also has a quick ball to start things off here.
That's the third game today. We've seen somebody start with their one-off tech Mimikyu. That Mimikyu really wants to join in today. It's quite nice to see. So Azul does have a quick ball and probably going to be going for one of the more standard Pokemon here. It's probably going to be something like an Urshifu, or if he needs to draw cards, maybe a Dedenne or something along those lines. But we're going to see a bit of a delay here because, of course, the first time you search your deck, you are really digging through going, right, what am I missing? What's prize? Let's try and plan out. And if there are any adjustments that need to be done because of my prizes, I might as well know about them at the first opportunity.
Yeah, absolutely. Getting that information on your side is always going to help you navigate things. There's obviously a few big cards you need to keep track of if you are Azul, not just your Pokemon, not just your Rapid Strike energies, but also the number of scoop up nets you have available to you, because you can do some crazy Zigzagoon plays with this sort of archetype. We are going to see Azul going to put down the Giratina. I think this is playing around Escape Rope more than anything else, as he just passes things over, because he does not want his Urshifu to get a quick fire knockout from a Spiritomb, because it is actually possible with this archetype.
Absolutely. You can go absolutely nuts with damage here. It is something that is in play. We see a lot of gold here, a lot of gold, but we've got some level ball. And level ball is huge. It means you can get your Jirachi, it means you can get your Spiritomb, can also get your Mew, bearing in mind pretty much Federico's entire deck has less than 120 HP, means that those big Urshifu attacks can really start taking double prizes every time, so we are going to have to see a Mew at some point. It's just whether Federico thinks it's realistic that Azul might actually get it going next turn, which, given there's an Urshifu with an energy on, that is possible.
Yep, and it's certainly one of those things you have to prioritize. You can't allow Azul to have those multiple prize turns straight out the gate. So possibly this quick ball could even just be for that Mew. Otherwise, it's going to be a Dedenne GX, and you just get rid of both of your scoop up nets and just double toughness cape up, or cape of toughness, I should call it. Interestingly, Federico didn't use his escape rope into the doll before the professor's research. It could have helped him out a little bit here. But we are going to see the Dede change come into play. A couple two-prize Pokemon is something that Azul is happy to see for certain. We're going to see, wow, look at this play. You can scoop up nets, Pokedolls to open up a board space for you, which is pretty spicy. And now we're going to see the fresh 6 here.
That is going quite nicely. Now, we do see Spike Muff, we do see an energy, but it's not really the turn you necessarily wanted. And I don't think there's any way to get a Mew there, which is not ideal. We've got a Cape of Toughness, Scoop Up Net, Spike Muff, Energy, couple of Pokemon, but not really going to be able to get that Mew there. So as it stands at the moment, I mean, Azul could potentially next turn just use Urshifu to take out both Spiritomb, because even the Cape of Toughness only puts them up to 110. They're still very much within range, and that could really, really hurt Federico's entire game plan. So kind of has to bench a third Spiritomb just so he's gonna definitely have one next turn.
And even then, his hand is just not looking great. He's going to build the Spike because you may as well, if they're not getting knocked out with Gmax Rapid Flow, you can at least have these counters lying around. And yeah, you're a little bit afraid of all sorts here. Azul could have a huge turn, and even then, you're just relying on Oricorio to help you get there. But if Azul takes the KO and even Zigzagoon pings the Oricorio, it could be really awkward for Federico in the next coming turn.
That will be all but locked down. Plus, remember, you've got that Dedenne on the bench. That Dedenne gives up 2 prizes, which is, shall we say, far from ideal. And it is weak, so it's a very easy KO there. So, I mean, with no... And there is no space for Mew on the bench. There's no way to get Mew out. I mean, as it stands at the moment, it looks like Azul's got a pretty straightforward route to 6 prizes. As long as he's got the VMAX and a switch, which I suppose is a fairly big if... This is looking like it's swinging Azul's way pretty strongly, pretty quickly.
Looks like Marnie is going to be the path Azul tries to take to get towards those pieces. Does bail out Federico a little bit because his hand was going absolutely nowhere. But it could still end up being a very big turn for Azul if he can get that VMAX rolling.
Oh, he's got the switch. Does he have the VMAX? Oh, he's got Jirachi. So this is going to be an interesting one to see.
Yep, could be piecing together quick balls even for potential Dedenne GX digs or Crobat V if he feels it's necessary, because you have to see that dealing with the Spiritombs is such a big turn for you. You wipe out 2 attacking threats and all the build spike damage that Federico's accumulated so far, as well as it just being a nice 2 prize cards to take for you in your route when there's already Dedenne and Oricorio out there for you. So there's so many reasons why this could be a huge turn for Azul here. Nothing from the Wish. Could mean he already has the Dedenne in hand. Nothing.
Oh, that is a bailout from Federico. Of course, he's going to need to hit a scoop up net because there is no bench space out at the moment. So it's not like that Mew can just come down. And I do think Mew is absolutely necessary here. Now, the good news is we've got an escape rope. The bad news is there's no... I don't think there's any draw in his hand. There's a quick ball, but there's no bench space to use anything with it.
No, I think it's just going to be Spike Buff, get some damage onto Spiritomb, build more Spite. The Giratina is weak to Dark. As you can see, Federico is hovering over there, so you only need 2 damage counters on Spiritomb to take the KO here with Anguish Cry. You can even jinx off potentially one of these Spiritombs onto another Pokemon just to have a bit of safety against other things here. He's debating whether or not he wants to build Spite anymore. He does have to be a little concerned about Zigzagoon quad net, but I think on the balance of things, you do want to get the extra damage in play, even if you're going to move it onto a different Pokemon. It's going to go onto the backup Spiritomb here. And yeah, just go ahead and attach and take the prize by the looks of things. Capitalize on Azul's poor hand.
Absolutely, and it may well be if Azul just has a couple of turns where he doesn't have very much. These Spiritomb can get terrifying, absolutely terrifying. And having said that, the prize was a switch, so Federico's going to need something. It's not outside the realms of possibility to KO your own Spiritomb to build a bench space to get a draw, but that is a pretty, that's an in case of emergency break glass play. I've done it,
yeah,
but I wasn't proud of myself.
Yeah, really hoping that if Azul does piece anything together, the Oricorio could possibly be the bailout for you. So we'll see. There is a research now for Azul, and he does have Stellar Wish on his side still, so you got to think this turn it's an easy way to find a VMAX, and we are finally seeing a VMAX come into play. So you got to think it's double Spiritomb that's getting knocked out here.
Yeah, and this is going to be so rough because that basically puts Federico down to 2 Spiritomb in his deck. And that means that unless he can start recovering them, next turn he's going to have 2 Spiritomb, and guess what Azul's going to go for next turn? And then you KO Dedenne, and that's game. It's why Mew is so gosh darn important in this game, and I think it's going to have to be Oricorio to draw some cards, quick ball for a Mew, but then even if you do that, you've only got 1 Spiritomb out. You need to dig for that final Spiritomb. If Azul gets to the point where he's taking multiple prizes, this becomes such a horrible matchup, because I know a lot of the time we see this G-Max move coming in as a finisher, but here it's got to be Azul's kind of primary mode.
Yeah, exactly. And fortunately for Federico, there was no Zigzagoon coming into play, so the Oricorio is live to draw him some cards because he desperately needs some right now. Boss's Orders doesn't change too much unless you want to take another little quick 1 prize knockout on the Jirachi that's heavily damaged. Mew coming in as well, that's a good time for it. You got to establish this, you know, a couple turns earlier, but even now it's still going to be helpful for you down the line.
If you haven't lost, it's a good time to get Mew down against this deck when all your Pokemon are this weak. Of course, there is an option at this stage to just go after those weaker Pokemon. It's good that Oricorio does have the resistance. It looks like the final Spiritomb is coming out here. And the Mew means at least one is going to survive. And do remember, Azul does need to get the Rapid Strike energy and the Fighting energy on in order to use that bigger attack. And that does mean it's kind of an every other turn attack rather than an every turn attack. So Federico just needs to make use of his time and just get as much damage as he can on the board. But his Spiritomb are going to be knocked out every turn, and it can be really hard to build them up to do VMAX KOing damage when they're going down every single turn.
And you can see Federico's trying to piece together some math here. He's trying to weigh up the benefit of getting extra damage into play for your own Anguish Cries against getting just blown out by Zigzagoon's Scoop Up Net from Azul and taking multiple prizes again in a turn just by taking an active knockout as well as Zigzagoon's Scoop Up Net. So that's a bit of a balancing act here. I think this is his last gusting effect as well for Federico, because he's got rid of Great Catcher and there's already 2 Boss's Orders in the discard pile. I feel you still need to go for the research here and just go without any other gust for the remainder of the game.
Unfortunately, I think you're absolutely right on that one. Does he have a way? Yes, he does. He's got the switch to get Spiritomb out of the active. So, essentially, I mean, he's hitting a good amount of damage here. 130 is nice. There's the Cape of Toughness. That's pretty huge, because now he can Building Spike. He can use Jinx to move the damage from one of his other's Pokemon, in this case, Spiritomb. And he can actually hit for, what would be 190 damage, which is pretty impressive, to be honest with you. But we need some Spiritomb recovery. He's going to be down to 1 Spiritomb left in his deck, unless he can actually start getting something rolling here. He does play 2 Ordinary Rod.
Yeah, he does play those 2. I think that was the main reason for the research this turn, rather than just hold the hand. Unable to find any, unfortunately, for him. So we're just going to settle for the 190 into the active, getting to work on this VMAX. We do have to stress that it is awkward that the amount of gusting has already, that's just not an option for him at this point anymore. So it's really just him trying to make the most out of whatever's in the active for Azul. So I'm imagining that Azul will certainly be playing around this in later turns, as he is going to Air Balloon retreat out of that VMAX, taking a couple more damage counters as it goes. And we're going to see some more Stellar Wishing in here.
And we do see a cap on Spiritomb of 310. 10 damage counters if you've got the Giant Cape plus the 10 base, which is not enough to get a one-hit KO on a VMAX. So Azul can certainly use that to his advantage in the future, going, you know what, I know you can't one-hit KO this, so you hit it, and then I'll just go to a different one on the bench, and, we'll do this for a couple of turns. Kind of his own way of going Lily's Polka Doll.
And Azul sensing that, even though he picked up a Great Catcher from the Stellar Wish, he knows that there's 3 Spiritomb knocked out, and Federico has to go fishing for the Ordinary Rods now to reload them. And it really means that Federico can't get the maximum value from his Spike Muffs. Typically, you're trying to dance your Spiritombs. You go into one, you go back into the other one. You go into one, you go back into the other one, because that's how you rack up damage for multiple threats. And at the moment, that's not possible. We need to see a research into an Ordinary Rod here. There is one, and we see Level Ball, so it is open, and there are a few nice switch cards in here as well. So it's a pretty good research overall. He's also going to grab a couple energies as he goes, or at least 1 Dark Energy.
It is a pretty good research, but he's now got at least 2 Spike Muff in the discard and 1 on the board, and we know that Azul does play 2 copies of Martial Arts Dojo, so without Spike Muff, Spiritomb becomes an awful lot weaker as a deck. And it looks like there is a chance in the not-too-distant future that Federico could be trying to pilot this deck, and he does have 1 left there. It could be trying to pilot it without Spike Muff, which could be a bit of a problem. Or maybe the game won't even last that long.
Yeah, the game is closing in pretty quickly, to be fair. And Federico has this annoying option where he has these escape ropes, but they don't help his prize race at all. Azul can just throw up the Mimikyu or the Jirachi if he wants to, but it may force Federico into an awkward spot on a later turn instead, where you just build again to the active, Jinx back off, maybe even do some Scoop Up Net plays. But you may be forced to rope as well here.
Well, I mean, this turn he's all right. He can Building Spike, he can Jinx and damage over, and then he'll be hitting 130, which is enough to get the KO. But you're then just building up the active. And what makes Spiritomb great is where you've got multiple Spiritomb all ready to come in, and you're basically 2-hit KOing bigger Pokemon. Here, you've got the active, and that's great, but then you're running into the difficulty of the ones on the bench. However, This one's a little bit weird. So what we've actually got is a retreat and then move damage off. So what I was saying, this is working. And fun little trick with Spiritomb. If you scoop up net the Jinx, you can actually use that ability a second time if that's what you're into.
But yeah, this is another way that you can get that knockout and have a little bit more on the bench for next turn. You are still vulnerable to Azul having Zigzagoon scoop up net. I've mentioned it throughout the entire game and it hasn't happened just yet. But it does mean that it could be game this turn for Azul. You could double Zigzagoon ping the Spiritomb. You know he's already holding on to Great Catcher as well in hand. So it's not too much to ask for.
No, VMAX, Energy, Switch, Zigzagoon, Scoop Up Net. Which I know sounds like a lot, but we see how decks run nowadays. It is not as much as it sounds on the face of it. So, yeah, I mean, Azul's got game on the board. For what it's worth, Federico can win next turn if there's no VMAX coming down. Oh, but he doesn't even have any giant capes left, to be fair. I'm not sure that he does.
Yeah, and no boss's orders either. Yeah.
Oh, no cape of toughness, no boss. That's going to make it difficult.
Yeah, so Federico's 2 turns away at best.
Yeah.
Azul can win this turn, and if not, he can still just take the Gale Frost KO this turn and then go for Great Catcher play next turn. So he's not in really any hurry. I'm just saying he could win this turn if he wants to make that push. He did pick up a Quick Ball from the Stellar Wish, so he could go digging with the Dene GX if he needs to.
He really could. We are coming down to it. We're 2 turns away at the most here from seeing a resolution. It looks like Azul is in control. And one of the things I love about the way Azul playing this game, not been overbenching, not been putting those Dedenne down, because those Dedenne, they're actually pretty weak, and they are in Spiritomb range. And here we go on the Great Catcher on the Dedenne, which will not quite win the game, but will put Azul 1 prize away from winning, and he doesn't even need to attack to do that.
Yeah, exactly. And there's no way that Federico can deal with this VMAX all in 1 turn. Escape ropes only take 1 prize, which, you know, doesn't matter for the prize race. It's still 2 turns away. And Azul's just saying, yeah, you have to get through this VMAX no matter what. You can rope once, but that's it. You've then got to deal with the 330 all over again. So Federico is going to have 2 turns to attack with Spiritomb, but they're so heavily damaged that Azul can just poke and close the game with the 30 damage Gale Thrust.
Yeah, I said earlier in the broadcast, 30 damage on Gale Frost wasn't particularly good. Well, this is one of those situations where it will do very nice. And look at that hand. We've got 2 rope, 2 switch, Spike Muff, Energy, Scoop Up Net. This is the hand you're desperate for in a Spiritomb deck, but it's too late in the game. There's no Cape of Toughness left, and I don't even know what you do here, because the reality is you're not really 2-hit KOing, and you need to get down to 20 damage just in order to be able to survive.
Yeah, here's the Stellar Wish. Here's the cape that he can
there
put
is
out.
one left.
That means he doesn't get knocked out immediately. It basically doesn't mean he loses on board. He loses to Azul finding switch or switch pay retreat.
Rapid
Strike Energy. Yeah.
Orders.
Still a ton of cards. Let's be fair. But it means you're not dead on board, which is good. We'll take that.
No, that is quite nice. I'd say Boss's Orders, the Spiritomb on the bench does actually have 20, so it is just out of range of a poke. Although Zigzagoon that would do it as so much.
There's a lot of ways. There's a lot of ways here. Yeah.
He's got a 4-card hand as well, which is not insignificant. It's not looking great for Federico. However, this game, it did not look close early on. Early on in the game, it looked like Azul was absolutely going to storm this game and it wasn't going to be close. Federico is 1 turn away from winning this game. And I don't think he's going to. Azul's got too many outs. But from where we were back at the beginning of the game, Federico's done a pretty spiffing job of actually getting back into this and making it a close run thing.
Yeah, there's a lot of burst potential. Like we said, there's just so many switch outs now that Spike Muff gets ridiculous value as he does end on the Anguish Cry. Azul is going to go ahead and Quick Ball. Going to see the Zigzagoon. Zigzagoon, is that enough to take the KO here?
No, he needs...
Boss's Order Zigzagoon gets there.
However.
Yeah, there you go. So Federico didn't build Spike last turn for exactly this reason, but Azul does have that Quick Ball Boss's Orders combo to go 1-0 up here in the loser's bracket.
Yeah, and very, very well played by both players. I mean, like I say, Federico did not look like it was going to be a good game for him early on. Really pulled it back. I want to know what would have happened had the Mew come out slightly earlier. Does that, stop his progress enough in the early game that the benefit for the Mew is really lost because of your lack of momentum? Does it give him that extra turn he needs to try and win later on? I love how Azul played, because you saw that really, really careful, let's control my board. I'm not playing the Goons until I need them. I'm not playing the Dene unless I have to, which turns out didn't. I think a really well-played game by both players. I really enjoyed that one.
Yeah, that was good. I mean, neither of them had the ideal starts, and Azul had a turn just sort of Stellar Wish passing when he could have dealt with 2 Spiritombs if everything had gone well for him. But he was still able to pull out that last few G-Max Rapid Flows. And just the big bulk of the VMAX is just so difficult to deal with the Spiritomb. The maximum damage output you can do, I believe, is 310 with Spiritomb, which is a lot, but just not enough with this VMAX. Yeah.
I'll be fine against Victini, but we ain't playing against Victini. We are playing against Urshifu. So let's head on over into game 2 and see if this Spiritomb can just keep on the board a little while longer. It is awkward when you've got super low HP and you damage yourself as part of your primary game plan, but Spiritomb's fun, man.
And Federico does get the benefit of going first here, so he's not staring down an immediate G-Max Rapid Flow, which is something. Gives him a couple turns to maybe try and develop something. And he does have early level ball, early switch outs is never a bad thing either. So he can start to build Spite and get his game plan on the go.
Yeah, this isn't bad. We've also got that Lily's Pokédoll as well. It's just an item card, which is actually a Pokemon, which doesn't give up a prize, which is always a nice option. Are you sure you want to end your turn without attacking?
He's not able to attack. What? It's turn 1. Oh, PTCGO. All right.
This is what we were saying about the players having these new accounts, and all those little boxes we all got rid of many years ago are back.
Azul kicks off with the Jirachi. He can start Stellar Wishing if he wants to. Again, the plan is always pretty simple for turn 1. Get your energy drops early onto Urshifu, because you do want to be threatening that G-Max Rapid Flow as quickly as possible. And yeah, let's see what else can go on here.
Yes, I mean, there's not too much needed. I mean, there's always more that you want, but these VMAX decks, I mean, the ones we're really seeing here, we've got Victini and we've got Urshifu, though you could put Eternatus into the same category. And it's basically, I need 2 energy on my VMAX turn 2. So it really is, turn 1, I want my V, I want my energy, that's it. I would like more, but that is all I really need to make sure I've got a pretty good start to the game. And these are the VMAXs we seeing play. You know, Centiskorch sees play, or did, because you can welder onto it. VMAXs that attack for 2 energy have that inherent advantage of, as long as I get an energy turn 1. We've seen Dragapult seeing a lot of love when Rebel Clash first came out. That's making a bit of a comeback with Battle Styles coming out, because it hits for weakness on Urshifu. And again, we got 2 energy on a VMAX, and so many of these decks have pretty much the same turn 1. Can I have a V? Can I have an energy? And if I get some other stuff on the board, that is gravy, but it's not needed.
Yeah, less is more with Pokemon. You really want to simplify your strategy so that no matter what hand you have, you're still in the game. And as you see, Azul gets his backup Pokemon to play around Escape Rope. He gets that energy drop. He gets that Urshifu. That's all you need for that turn 1 play. And he's just going to send it over to Federico now, who is probably going to be forced to research here. Could switch into his Spiritomb early. Typically, you want to have the Spiritombs in the active so that you can go for some Spikemuth plays. Of course, you can reset your Pokédoll as well. So both decent options here. And I think you just got to go ahead and research this.
Yeah, it's not ideal. You don't really want to be burning those switching cards before there's a Spikemuth down on the field. We now have double Spikemuth, and we have another Spiritomb. We do have a Quick Ball. You've got to think that Quick Ball turns into a Mew this game, because we're in the same position we were in last time, where what Azul can actually do with an energy, a VMAX, and a switch, or some kind of card to get the Jirachi out the active, could take out both Spiritomb. And if Federico loses both Spiritomb going into his second turn, that is a very, very hard place to come back from. Having said that, do you want to discard any of those free cards?
No, they're all great. Both of your ordinary rods you do not want to get rid of this early on in the game. So possibly Crobat is the option instead. And then you hope to find Level Ball or Quick Ball afterwards and just hope that you also have a supporter on top of this. So yeah, we are going to see the Crobat here. We're going to see the switch. He can then use his Hiding Darkness energy to retreat here. Lots of damage counters coming out. You can buy yourself a board space back with the Pokédoll as well here. So I really like that, especially because you need Mew in play. He does find himself supporters for next turn and Mew. So a nice risk from Federico here, really paying off so that he can get double Spiritomb developed and protected behind this Mew.
Love it. Absolutely love it. And what we've got there, I mean, you can even leave a Lily's Pokédoll on the active. You can take a prize, you cannot. If you leave Lily's Pokédoll on the active, you force us all to have a gusting option just to take a single prize. And you can then sit there and try building up those Spiritomb, get in the Cape of Toughness, going from there. Or you can take an early prize, bearing in mind Spiritomb. It is a deck that wants to rush towards prizes, so you can understand why it goes into the active and KOs a Jirachi. Yeah, Azul's got another one ready to go. That's not ideal, but you just need to get to 6 prizes as fast as you can, and you don't really have the luxury of taking several turns to set up here.
And Federico, terrified of Zigzagoon Scoop Up Net, that combo that I've been talking about the whole time, that hasn't happened just yet. You always have to try and play around it in the opportunities where you can. So he's going to do just enough with the Anguish Cry here. Picks up a Bird Keeper from those prize cards and takes the first knockout here and moves things over to Azul, who, you know, his turn looks a lot weaker now. Even if you are going for Gust knockouts, it's probably just on the Mew. And even then, Federico can respond immediately with Ornery Rod. So he's only probably taking 1 prize this turn at most, unless he wants to go chasing Crobat. But typically, you want to deal with the Spiritombs because they can get unwieldy and out of control if you allow them to.
Yeah, they can snowball pretty quickly. And like I say, with Cape of Toughness, fine, you can't get a one-hit KO on a 330 HP V max. But really, is that your biggest concern? Now, stadiums is important here, right? We see that Federico has lost 2 and Azul's got 1 down. If things go chalk, Federico will win the Stadium War here because he plays 1, Azul plays his last one, Federico plays his last one. So we are still in that position, and Federico needs a Stadium. It's huge for him. We are still in that situation where he should win the prize race. Azul, for what it's worth, will do an extra 40 damage with a basic fighting. Not sure how relevant that is.
Not for now, at least. Yeah, because we know that Gale Trust is already doing plenty. It does allow him to go for a strafe, but no switch outs for Azul either. This allows Federico to have an easy prize or more because there's escape ropes in the mix here as well.
That is not the turn you wanted to see there. That was far from ideal. So, yeah, not loving that at all. And that's good because it means Federico's up by a turn and... up by a prize, sorry, and has that turn to try and establish his board, which is pretty huge.
You can hit 220 this turn thanks to the Cape of Toughness. You can Jinx onto your bench Spiritomb. You can build Spite onto that Spiritomb. Then you can scoop up net your Jinx, put it back down, and move another counter on. And then you can escape rope. So he can take a 2-prize KO here thanks to escape rope or get to work on the VMAX.
I mean, what you just said is a reason I love these Spiritomb decks. You're like, here's this 17-step combo, which is going to end up with this tiny little Spiritomb taking out a Pokemon V or doing significant damage. It's what makes a deck such a fun thing to watch. In the end, just takes out the Jirachi, and I don't mind that, because actually, Azul's now got a 4-card hand and no draw Pokemon, or 5 cards now.
Yeah, exactly. I mean, that's no bad thing. Azul does have the response KO, thanks to the dojo now being relevant. So he can strafe if he wants to. And he's going to boss his orders up here as well for the Mew, probably.
Yeah. Gotta be. I need to correct myself. So I said I mocked how the Martial Arts Dojo wasn't that relevant. Of course, hitting for 150 with Martial Arts Dojo, 190, Oricorio's 170 with minus 20 resistance actually does allow a single energy KO on the 2-prize Oricorio if you're behind on prizes. You probably want to go after the Spiritomb, but it's actually a lot more relevant than I gave it credit for, and I'd like to apologize for that.
And let's see, still no Stadium for Federico. Look how many switch outs he has, but he can't cash in.
Still none.
Still none coming in. You like to see the toughness capes. They allow you to get greedier with your Spiritomb. He can also thin out Pokemon to increase his odds for the Stellar Wish if he wants to.
think you need to. You've got to go. You've got to go after that stadium. That is the whole point of the deck. If you don't have the stadium, things can go downhill really, really quickly because you're not getting that damage output you're relying on. The whole point of Spiritomb is I can get up to big damage for a single energy on a basic Pokemon. Yeah, it's weak, but it's fine. Basic Pokemon, single energy, big damage. It's a deck built on speed because it doesn't quite have the damage cap of other decks. It's a lot lower. So you don't want to spend turn after turn without the stadium because, well, then you're just not getting the damage. I mean, you can hit for 130 here with Spiritomb. Bit more time you use building Spite and Jinx, but still not what you're looking for.
Yeah, I think probably a rope play could come in this turn. You take that rope 2-prize knockout if you can. I think he also may want to go back into this Stellar Wish Jirachi to try and re-establish a Mew. I think he's been looking for the Ordinary Rod here, because that was manied away, I think. And you want to reestablish Mew because this VMAX is going to be really bad for you. At the very least, you can put down this third Spiritomb now and maybe Jinx onto it and build Spite onto it and basically cape up everything so you have a backup. But yeah, it's pretty awkward that you're allowing Azul to get the value of Gmax Rapid Flow this turn.
Yeah, it's not ideal. Incidentally, could have got the KO on Urshifu, but would have needed to use a scoop up net to get a second use of Jinx's ability. You need to go up to 7 damage counters, not 6. And unfortunately, it looks like with the hand they've got, that's not possible. So, sad, but dealing big damage to the VMAX is fine. You are up by a prize. So if Azul takes 2 prizes now, and then you KO the VMAX next turn, you still end up with 1 prize remaining to Azul's 3 prizes remaining. Not a bad place to be.
Yeah, you're still in decent shape. Of course, there is the option for like Karate Belt and more Rapid Strike energies that can allow Azul to go for double Gmax Rapid Flow as his win condition. That's certainly scary.
Oh,
because
yeah.
you can gust up the Crobat and you can take a 3-prize KO. Obviously, Federico will try and establish Mew to deny that, but I do like Federico putting in more Cape of Toughness now. There's no reason not to, really, I don't think. You just want to protect your Spiritombs as best as possible around Zigzagoon's Scoop Up Net.
Well, I mean, you want to save them for the late game, I suppose, when you get more Spiritomb out. Essentially, anything that's in Zigzagoon range needs to be caped, and anything that isn't, you probably want to save it for later in the game. It's awkward, but I do think it's one of those, if the Spiritomb are going down, they're going down anyway. So having those Cape of Toughness just available for later Spiritomb that might not be going down anyway, I do quite like that, because it really does raise the damage cap on your Spiritomb, so I quite like not playing them.
And let's see what Azul can come up with. I think really all he wants to do is make another VMAX and attach to it, and then just go for the Gmax Rapid Flow. It sets up 2-turn win for him as long as there's no Mew coming out. So it's a fairly routine path for him. I think that has to be the play. You already have your 2 prizes mapped out for you this turn, unless you happen to be holding on to Boss's orders already. Okay, so Amani's going to be limiting Federico's hand. I also like this option. Make it less likely that they can redevelop anything next turn. Keep them off all of those pivot plays to build up more Spiritomb. And yeah, it gives Federico not much to work with. There is an extra energy drop, and there is going to be a Gmax Rapid Flow, dealing with 2 of the most heavily damaged Spiritombs.
Yeah, and that's really nice. I mean, Azul's doing everything he needs to do here, taking out those 2 Spiritomb, taking advantage of that 1 turn where Mew isn't there. And that's why Boss's orders had to take out the Mew. You don't really want to use your gusting for the turn to take out a 60 HP support Pokemon, but it's just one of those things, unfortunately. Now, the good news is Hal's drawn into an Ordinary Rod, so can use that, and then you've got potentially a switch into a Jirachi, or you've even just got the Oricorio there ready to draw some cards. So I think you need to try and get the Mew and really a backup Spiritomb as well.
Yeah, some interesting sequencing puzzles going on here. Do you Rod and Oricorio first, or do you go for the switch Jirachi play and then Oricorio after? I feel like you should dance attributes if you're going to go for the Rod first. Yeah, that makes the most sense to me. Playing the switch into Jirachi, getting those extra counters onto Spiritomb, not much help there. Gives you that information that you need to Stellar Wish towards research, probably.
And that's upsetting because, if you had a Mew down and if you had a Mew down and you had only lost one Spiritomb last turn, you can probably boss his orders and take out the un-VMAXed Urshifu on the bench. As it is, the Mew going down, then that big turn taking out both the damaged Spiritomb means that all of a sudden that's not really an option. And now you're not in a great position. I mean, as it stands at the moment, this Building Spike will do 130, which will actually be 10 damage away. Although obviously Jinx can move damage over and then it will get the KO. But like you've said, that Urshifu on the bench can VMAX and then just win the game with a boss's orders.
Yeah, and now that there's no Cape of Toughness around, this Spiritomb is very vulnerable to Zigzagoon as well. So there's a lot of ways that Azul can win again next turn. It's what you have to do to keep up in the race if you're Federico. There's nothing else you can go for after missing the research off the Stellar Wish. But it does leave you wide open for a response here from Azul, who could close the game this turn in a number of ways.
Yeah, we're just like we were in the last game where Azul's got like 17 different ways to actually finish off this game. I mean, a Zigzagoon and then just a Zigzagoon Energy VMAX would do it. And Energy VMAX Boss's Orders would do it. Or even just Boss's Orders, a couple of switches, and a Zigzagoon would actually do it as well. Or an Energy Boss's Orders Zigzagoon with no VMAX would do it as well.
So many ways.
Probably missed a couple.
Where's Azul going to dig then? He probably is going to start going for it. He still has the Denes and Crobats. He's kept his board very tight this entire time. Here's the first of them. He's going to get rid of a couple Scoop Up Net. He doesn't really need those anymore because he only needs one Zigzagoon ping. Here's a fresh 6. Is there going to be any Boss's Orders plays? Is there going to be any VMAX coming down? Let's have a look.
Yeah.
At the very least, you can stamp and take a Strafe KO.
I mean, that's still a pretty good play.
Yeah, that's your absolute worst case. And it's still good.
Yeah, that was not too bad. I mean, you really want to try and get the energy, and Boss's Orders is pretty crucial. After that, it's just, do you get the VMAX or the Zigzagoon? It does not look like Azul's actually drawn very much at all. So it's actually just a strafe KO. But like you say, when you combine that with a reset stamp to 1, it's not the worst thing ever.
Yeah, and it means he can go fishing for Boss's Orders again next turn. Federico has Stellar Wish on his side, Boss's Orders, and 3 cards here from Dancer Tribute. He needs to re-establish an attacker, of course, this turn. Nothing yet. He can go for Great Catcher plays and then Dede change everything away.
You just need a Nut Spiritomb turn. It's as simple as that. You need a Nut Spiritomb turn. You need a turn where Spiritomb gets 5... You don't need Cape of Toughness. You need 5 damage counters on a Spiritomb. You've already got the Great Catcher in hand. So what you do here, that you've already got 2 there. If there's a Scoop Up Net left, that would be the 3rd one. And then you've got switching with Spikemuth. And you need to be careful with the sequencing here, because you don't want to end up with 4 damage counters on, because if you got 4 on and you switch, you get KO'd. So you need to have 3 and a switch, or 4 and something like Jinx. So it is possible here, but we're going to need to draw some switching cards. Spikemuth's in play, Great Catcher's in hand. Federico can, and if he doesn't win this turn, it is definitely over. But it is possible.
I feel like you have to discard your Hiding Darkness energy here, and then just go Great Catcher, Dede change. It's his only Dedenne, so you have to go for this line. You have to gust up the other Dedenne, and you got to go for the fresh 6 here. And we need a ton of switch outs and Scoop Up Nets, hopefully. No energy here.
So we got a Scoop Up there and a couple of switches.
We can re-roll a Stellar Wish, but you're then putting a different Urshifu into the active, which then means you need to have even more combo pieces. You need the Toughness Cape at that point.
Yeah. Oh, that is super awkward. And yeah, you can't really... As soon as you play the Escape Rope, you're not seeing that Jirachi in the active again. To be fair, Boss's Orders is still in play here. He's got Boss's Orders in hand and hasn't played a supporter. So you can play the Escape Rope just so long as that is a supporter you're happy with. And if you re-roll the Jirachi and get a different supporter, you ain't going to be able to play it.
Yeah. So it's awkward on a number of fronts here. We're going to see the Scoop Up Net by the looks of things. You have to re-roll Stellar Wish. There's no other way around it. It just means you need to absolutely pop off incredibly. with a ton of Spikemuth switch plays. And then, yeah, not boss's orders. You just have to deal with a regular Urshifu V. Here's some extra damage coming in. That's always good news for you.
Yeah. If you could just, like, a switching card and an energy would do it. Because then you could still play the boss's orders, but you're not getting both of them off of a Jirachi. This is super. This is one of the things that always stresses me out when I play Spiritomb. It's just, you need, like here, you need, well, I need to get the damage on, and I need to get it out of the active twice, and I need to get an energy.
Okay, nice, he level balled. I was panicking. With such an intricate combo, you gotta make sure you're doing everything right here, because it is in range, it's just so many pieces. Oh, no supporter. He can't get any energy this turn, he can't attack. I think that might close it out for Federico. He can re-roll again, actually. He can scoop up net and rope again. You have to jinx off your own Spiritomb to do it. You hate to see it, but... oh, no, you don't have to jinx off Spiritomb just yet. This gets you to 5. This is nice.
You just need an energy. Boss's orders is in hand. Oh, you need a switch now as well, actually.
Yeah.
Oh, it's so close. And Federico was so close last game.
Where's the research, man? Here we
There's
go.
the research, man.
Big draw. Finally, the Jirachi gets him there. That Spiritomb is hitting enough at this point, I think. Is that enough?
No.
We're at 200. Oh, we have a lot more switching now. We have the Toughness Cape. We have the Jinx. Are we there?
I think we might be there. So what do we need to hit? We need to basically hit like is it 210 or 220 on it?
220 that we need to hit.
That's what I thought. So you need 7 damage counters. 6 won't be enough. So one more switch in and out would do it.
So we can scoop up at the active, free retreat with the hiding darkness energy, then rope. Is that our win condition? Have we played any retreats yet?
Rope would be fine, because Rope would put up the other Urshifu, but you'd still be hitting 230. Turns out the 20 damage on that active Urshifu is completely irrelevant. So if we can retreat, or we can just...
Can Hiding Dark get him here? I don't think we've seen a normal retreat yet, have we?
If we haven't seen a retreat, you're absolutely right, because what we can essentially do is... Yeah, we can scoop up there, retreat, Rope.
Yeah, scooping that retreat rope is game.
Oh, no! Or we can just scoop up net the Jinx and move the energy... Oh, there isn't another damage on the board to move.
There will be after this rope, though, right?
You're right, there will be. So now you can just scoop up net the Jinx, reuse Jinx's ability, put the damage onto Spiritomb, and get the KO!
Ta-da!
It's such an awkward turn!
Yeah, this is a puzzle of a deck, that's for sure. But Anguish Cry is going to get Federico over the line here. What a crazy combination of cards to rack up a Spiritomb. 7 damage counters out of nothing. There wasn't even a Spiritomb in play that turn. He was able to establish the Toughness Cape, get enough Spikemuth props in there to get all the way up to 220, which was exactly the number he needed. Azul had a big couple of whiffs there. He Denny changed into thin air, basically. So he missed his shots. It was a big combo that he needed. He needed VMAX and Boss's Orders, or he needed something like Zigzagoon Ping and Boss's Orders as well. So a strange combo that he had to find, completely missed it, and then the Spiritomb out of nowhere taking a big 2-prize knockout to close the game.
That was just phenomenal. And that is what I love about these weird decks like Spiritomb. When Spiritomb fires, like we just saw it happening, it is a thing of beauty. And the thing to remember is we're talking about Spiritomb as a bit of a rogue deck, a fringe deck, an unusual deck. Federico is a phenomenal player who has got really, really far in this tournament. And Federico only brings this Spiritomb deck if he's tested it and is absolutely convinced it is a top-tier deck that can hang with all the other decks. And sure, there are some absolute edge-of-the-seat nail-biter turns like we just saw, but when it works, oh my goodness, it's a thing of beauty. Joe, I'm ready for the deciding game 3. Let's head on over to game 3.
Get us in there. I want to see some crazy combos. I mean, you get some wacky hands where you're just looking at rope, switch, net, but you're like, he can piece it out from this. You really have to be quite the abstract player to play Spiritomb. You've got to have the picture in your head of where you want to get to, because you have so many wishes, you can eventually get there.
Oh, it can absolutely happen. Like I say, it's a deck I've played around with an awful lot myself, both pre and post rotation. I didn't have Escape Rope and I didn't have Level Ball. The deck is clearly stronger now. And you've got to be really, like you say, you've got to be really confident with this deck. You have got to come into these games thinking, right, I am gonna, because if you get one thing wrong, if you play rope at the wrong time, if you building spike when you shouldn't, if you move the wrong energy to or from the wrong Pokemon with Jinx, if you make one little slip up, you lose games entirely. One little misclick, one little mistake, and the game is over. You really need to be confident in your sequencing, in the numbers, in everything to play this deck well.
And look how insane his hand is. He is going second, which is kind of dicey, but he has Spikemuth, Hiding, Jinx, Research. That's a really, really strong turn for an opening for a Spiritomb player. As Azul is going to be kicking off this game 3. Once again, starting with Shadowbox Mimikyu. Everyone seems to start this in their deck. And we start off with the communication. When you see the Dedenne going into the deck, you know that his hand has some legs to it.
Yeah, you don't get rid of that Dedenne that can draw you cards unless you don't need to draw cards, and that is a good position to be in turn 1. So it looks like both players have had a pretty good start. Looks like they are going to be able to get rolling and do their thing, and I'm a little bit excited about that. I mean, Federico, you've got to think, has got to have that Mew on lockdown at this stage. I mean, one of the things I like about Game 3 is that both players, I mean, you see the deck list in advance. That gives you a lot of information, especially for good or seasoned players. But actually seeing your opponent play, watching their tendencies, seeing the kind of things they do, that can be really important. So in Game 3 like this, both players know what to expect.
And yeah, a reasonable turn for Azul. He has already established that Rapid Strike energy, which is a really nice thing to pick up, threatening that G-Max Rapid Flow on turn 2, forcing Federico not only to get those multiple Spiritombs down, but also the Mew, as you mentioned. But like we say, it's a good start. Throwing away an Ordinary Rod isn't great, and this hand is pretty poor, actually.
Yeah.
You can KO this Mimikyu, I think, this turn. It is in range for you, because you have the Switch and the Hiding. And the Jinx as well, and Build Spite. You can get there, but is this Quick Ball just going to be a Mew? Or do you have to turn it into another Spiritomb and then you Crobat for a few cards? It's awkward here.
Yeah, I mean, you want them both. You really need that Mew because, again, there's an Urshifu with an energy, which means another energy and a VMAX, and Azul's doing what Azul wants to do. But you also need a Spiritomb because it's all well and good having a Mew down, but if you've got a Mew down and you don't actually have a Spirit, you got one Spiritomb, well, Azul knocks it out and doesn't necessarily need to do the big attack because, yeah, it's nice to take 2 Pokemon out in one go, but really, Azul just wants to keep Spiritomb off the board. It doesn't matter how many Jinx and Mew and Oricorio and all those silly Pokemon are out. If you've run out of Spiritomb, Federico is not winning this game.
Crobat coming down for the big 3. Are there any more Ball Search cards? Yes, we do see a Quick Ball. This is big for Federico. It means he can develop another Spiritomb now. You have to think that's what he goes for here.
Yeah.
Because now he's got that Mew established. He knows he has at least a 2-turn chain of attacks. He can get to work with Build Spite. He can even Jinx off the Mew as well this turn. So pretty ideal. Like we said, his opening was strong, and then the Research finally got him there after the Crobat dig. He can still Build Spite onto the active as well. So really solid opening here for him.
It is indeed. Is that Mimikyu in range?
It's just 70 hit points, right? Or is he going for the Build Spite here?
It is 70
hit points.
Okay, so it does go out of the way there. Well, Mimikyu is one of those Pokemon, it sometimes has a weakness, sometimes doesn't. This one doesn't have a weakness, so I was just making sure it was 70 rather than 80. So Federico does go up by 1 prize there. And to be fair, that Giratina is another pretty easy prize given the weakness, but of course, it's the Urshifu that Federico really wants to be hunting down here.
And the Scoop Up Net is an easy pivot for Azul to bring up his Urshi, and he's going to go ahead and play the Marnie as well now. So probably just going to be content to Gale Thrust through the first Spiritomb and just go 1 by 1 and look to deal with that Mew at a later stage.
And that's a bit upsetting. I loved Federico's hand. He had the Oricorio to draw some cards. He had a Professor's Research. He had an energy ready to go. Federico he was going to be drawing like 11 cards at the beginning of his next turn. And he had an energy ready to go for his Spiritomb. So it's a little bit upsetting. That Marnie has put Federico on a much worse hand. Birdkeeper's good for switching. It's not quite so good for drawing.
Well, at least he has Level Ball and Quick Ball. It's not too bad. The Stadium's stuck in play as well, so he can go for some Stellar Wish plays to look for a better supporter, or you can go Bird Keep and maybe try and find some Rope plays potentially. He's instead going to go for the next Spiritomb. He can just simply Bird Keep into this one and draw 3 cards, get some extra damage floating around that board.
That would work. I mean, Cape of Toughness is also something he really wants to find, and he does, because that bench Spiritomb is in that awkward Galarian Zigzagoon plus Scoop Up net range, so that's pretty gosh darn nice. And actually, this is turning into a pretty good turn. We've still got a switch ready to go here. So it looks like, I mean, you can hit already on the board, can hit for 130 damage, and maybe not done yet.
Yeah, I think he needs energy, right? I don't think there's any in play, so it's going to be
a
you're 3-card dig for the energy. He doesn't want to put down to Dene GX because it's just so easily punished by Urshifu. So 3 big cards here. Does find Darkness Energy. He only had 4 in his deck. That was pretty low odds, so he's done very well to get that. Again, hedging when you have to, really. We can see the Toughness Cape come down. You can double build Spite, you can play Rope if you want to, or just simply switch out of the Spiritomb. Yeah, he's got a lot of push potential here.
Yeah, I think you switch because you want to hit into the VMAX at this stage. You want to get that 2-hit KO rolling. You know you're going to give up a prize. It's Spiritomb. You give up a prize every turn. It's why you play Oricorio. Oricorio draws 3 cards if you gave up a prize last turn, and if you're a Spiritomb player and you didn't give up a prize last turn, you dance a little dance of joy. It's a wonderful day. So you don't mind it going down. You just want to make sure you're getting that 2-hit KO. And this is where you want to be, if I'm honest with you, if you're Federico. That active Spiritomb's got a bunch of damage on. It's looking pretty good. And you've got one on the bench rolling with your Mew as well. You gotta... Unless he's going to switch again here.
Interesting.
Because that active Spiritomb is in range, and that makes me nervous.
Oh, I'm so nervous. He's going all the way to 5.
Oh, I would have
He could just be jinxing it off, though. He could just be going for the 130 poke this turn and set up the bench Spiritomb. This is a bit more conservative.
It is, but you still run the risk of Galarian Zigzagoon and Scoop Up net. And I mean, Azul plays for Scoop Up net, so it's not like it's a random one-off tech. And we know how easy it is to get those basic Pokemon in today's format with cards like Quick Ball. So this is a way for us all to have a 2-prize turn without having to get rid of the Mew. This is going to be a big Professor's research.
Research indeed. Let's see what we see. Can he knock out the Mew this turn? Can he get Zigzagoon online? So actually, yeah, research means there's no Mew getting knocked out. So he'll be going through possibly the active as well as... Well, if he can Zigzagoon the active twice, he could take out a couple Pokemon.
Yeah.
Dojo not changing much.
No, Dojo, like you say, there's a few weird little situations, but it's largely an irrelevant card here. It's mostly just a counter to Spikemuth. But, wow. This is lovely for Federico. Like I say, you're giving up a prize. That is expected. You're cool with that. But you only gave up 1 prize. And Federico showed in game 2, if you can have just like 1 explosive turn and limit the amount of times you give up 2 prizes, that is a route to victory. We've got Spikemuth there. We do have a Rope on board, but you don't really want to play the Rope because you want to take out that VMAX in the active, especially given that the Urshifu on the bench doesn't have an energy, so it is limited in its attacking options.
Yeah, so we will just see the research foregoing the escape rope, also keeping that board space open for a backup Spiritomb that he's just been able to reload. He has got himself some nice hiding darkness energy. It's actually a really solid 7 here, and still 3 more cards to get from Oricorio. You want to thin the deck of your Spiritombs first. You can level both of them out if you'd like to give yourself a better 3-card push here.
And that Scoop Up net has guaranteed the KO because you can Building Spite on the Spiritomb, and you can, if you want, then move 2 energy over with the Jinx onto your active, and that will put you up to the 7 damage counters that you need to get the KO here. 6, unfortunately, leaves you 10 damage away, which is a little bit upsetting. But the KO is on the board for Federico. If he's got the hand, if he wants to take the KO here, he can.
Yeah, and certainly he will be going for that play. He's gonna, he thins the last Pokemon out of his deck outside of the Dene GX, draws 3 additionals, does find another Toughness Cape as well, so he can try and protect his fresh Spiritomb on the bench. And we are going to see the retreat here, so he can go ahead and retreat and Jinx and Scoop Up net. You can Jinx off your Mew onto the next Spiritomb now, which is really nice. So getting to work on both of these. You can see Federico knows the ins and outs of his deck really, really well. He's making the optimal choice turn after turn.
Yeah, and this is really, really strong play here. There was another route to get the KO, but that route left a tiny bit less damage on your Bent Spiritomb, and every damage counter is absolutely huge here. Might even be leaving the Jinx off the board to save that bench space here.
Or it could even become another Spiritomb for even more spite building, because then you can, after the next Spiritomb gets knocked out, that can then be Jinxed later. Actually going to hold all of them, have the option open for Dene, which isn't too bad. It's a little bit awkward against Reset Stamp potentially, but Azul's not been drawing the best hands recently. So you're just going to go ahead, take your 3 prizes, you're 2 away, and Azul's got a lot of work to do. He's still got 4 prizes remaining. There's a Mew in play, so there's no Gmax Rapid Flow coming anytime soon. Yeah, things are looking awkward for Azul. He's against the wall here.
And this is what we wanted to see from the Spiritomb deck. Game 1 did not go very well. Almost pulled it out at the end, but game one was an awkward one. Game 2, we saw a very dicey game where Federico had that ridiculous turn to finish it off at the end. Game 3, it looks like Federico is finally actually in that position where he's going, look, this is what my deck actually does. This is what it did in testing, which is a reason I brought it to this tournament in the first place. And I'll be honest with you, when the deck works as it seems to be in this particular game, it's a thing of absolute beauty.
Yeah, it's super intimidating at this stage in the game. Still so many prizes remaining for Azul to catch up. And he may even be forced to put even more awkward Pokemon into play here. He's going to stick to the Jirachis. He can't afford to put down any Dene or Crobat at this stage. There's just too many options for Federico. So it's down to the Stellar Wishes, by the looks of things, to try and piece Azul out of this spot.
Speaking of pivoting around with switches and reusing abilities, Azul has apparently taken a page out of Federico's book. But you're right. If you bench a Dene or a Crobat at this stage, Federico just goes boss's orders, yay, I win the game. His board is too well established. Having said that, this Marnie could be kind of punishing because Federico chose not to re-bench the Jinx. He searched for the Spiritomb, didn't bench it. Picked up the Jinx, didn't bench it. So now we've got less Pokemon search. And then it's all going to be back in his deck, assuming the Marnie comes down. So this could be an awkward one. It could set Federico back a little bit.
Yeah, Azul really looking to try and still develop a VMAX if he can. He really needs to try and find replacement stadium as well. If he can combine that with the Marnie, that could really be a big deal for him. Another switch finally coming into, looks like the regular Urshifu V here. This means he may be forced to go for 100 Furious Blows, which is a spot where you really don't want to put yourself into.
No, I mean, the 30 for Strafe won't do it. Spiritomb's got 110 HP, which is 40 remaining at the moment. So you do either need a Martial Arts Dojo, which would get the KO here.
Zigzagoon, by the looks of things.
Or Zigzagoon.
Yeah.
There we go. I was going to say, there are other options other than 100 Furious Blows. I think Zigzagoon is the most likely. Martial Arts Dojo would be the better one, because then you take Spikemuth off the board as well. But it's easier to search for Pokemon than stadiums.
Let's see if this Marnie is going to be awkward for Federico or if he can still push.
No.
Wow, what a good hand that he's drawn into, as Azul is just going to strafe into one of these Jirachi by the looks of things. Takes a couple damage along the way. But yeah, Federico is not going to be slowed down too much here. He already has Dance of Tribute, and this Spikemuth has remained in play. There's a lot of push potential here. Do you dance first to try and get the boss's orders play here?
I think at some point you've got to dance a tribute before the professor's research. Well, it depends how much. So we're realistic.
I don't know. Maybe you just settle for the 2-shot here. The 2-turn win, because Azul can't win next turn with the Mew still developed. I think possibly you just play the research, try and develop double Spiritomb.
That's what I'm thinking.
Hit through Jirachi twice. I don't think you need to go crazy for the push here. You can just research and then dance afterwards, sit on a really large hand size, and not need much to close the game. And Federico approves. He's going straight for the research first before the dance. So he's not going for a crazy 3-card combo.
Needs a Spiritomb. Needs one for next turn. Is he going to get it? No.
We've got the quick ball still. I think we're there. I think we've got the backup already. We've got a lot of ropes as well. So you can take the 1 prize. You can just reset this doll to the bottom. You can make a Spiritomb. It depends. You can unload a ton of ropes here as well if you want to, but you still really want them for next turn because Azul will certainly leave a VMAX in the active next turn.
Yeah,
So you need to hold these ropes.
I think honestly at this stage, all you really need to do, I mean, maybe build a bit of damage on the Spiritomb, maybe, you know, have a rope or, well, maybe one rope to try, because you've got 3 ropes in hand. Maybe use 1 rope just to get that 20 damage onto the Spiritomb, just so you kind of 30 this turn, 40 next turn. Well, having said that, 2 damage counters will KO any of those support Pokemon, so you don't need any more on Spiritomb. So, no, I've changed my mind. I think here you just dole KO Jirachi and go, look, if I've got a rope next turn, you've lost.
Yeah, let's see it. Federico is going to reset that Lily's Pokédoll to the bottom. He's going to go into the most damaged Spiritomb. He's going to cape up the bench. He can also build Spite if he wishes. No real reason not to. He's going to attach to the active. Oh, he's not going to. I guess there's also no real reason to put the extra damage on at the same merit. So he's just going to take the 1, holding a ton of ropes, so that even if he is Marnied or if he is reset stamped in particular, he can have that out to play around Azul, who's going to try and make a VMAX here.
Absolutely. And for Azul, it really is as simple as make the VMAX, take a KO, and then next turn you need to boss his orders to Crobat. I think the time to get rid of Mew has basically gone. Because if you KO the Mew and Federico reestablishes, has he got a ordinary rod left?
I don't think so. Well, we are going to see the reset stamp. That's something. I think possibly he strafes into another Urshifu V, or he just goes for the V Max and just hits with Gale Frost this turn, if he can find one. Even using your Jirachi at this point, because the Spike Muff, that means even Mew could be a win condition, so any energy could win the game for Federico if you actually have to retreat the Jirachi that's in the active for Azul.
Yep. If Jirachi go, well, I mean, you scoop up net, retreat or switch, anything gets the damage from Spike Muff is one of the cool things about it. So you need to scoop up net the Jirachi, because you're right, I'd miss that. Mew, for 1 colorless energy, drops 3 damage counters on one of your opponent's Pokemon. So if you see a 70 HP Jirachi that has 4 damage counters on, 40 damage, that is in Mew range, weirdly. And that's not why you play Mew, but nice bonus.
Yeah, the Spike Buff, actually, there's a crazy amount of times where it really does improve your math. We haven't seen it too much, but it could be a sneaky win condition for Federico if Azul isn't able to find any scoop-up nets here, as we are going to see the Stellar Wish. There's already the Dene GX in Azul's hand, so he has plenty more push potential here, as he's trying to still piece together that VMAX. The Dojo's kind of nice. That means he can actually retreat his Jirachi now. Well, switch his Jirachi without needing the net.
Yeah, that's pretty big.
But there's not much else you can do. You're basically just at the whim of this reset stamp and hoping it's enough and that Dancer Tribute isn't going to be hugely punishing.
No, now how much damage is on that bent Spiritomb? Because that, now that there's a Crobat down, that could put a spanner in the works.
I think it's just the 1.
That's what I'm thinking. Yeah. You need to get up to 6 to get the KO.
Yeah, so he is Azul is blocking the rope win condition now with the help of Crobat. You've replaced the stadium, you've stamped, you finally made your VMAX, the tankiest Pokemon that you have available. And you're hitting 70 thanks to the Dojo and the basic energy, so you can just stay in the active here. And then you're saying you can win with Boss's Orders next turn.
I mean, as far as a turn goes, I think Azul has done absolutely everything that could be expected. Having the VMAX, having the protection against rope in form of both Dedenne and Crobat, although Dedenne is 1 damage counter less than KO. And you've reset stamped your opponent down to 1 while going down to 2 prizes. Azul is a Boss's Orders away from winning, but then again, last game Azul was a Boss's Orders away from winning, and then Federico had that turn. Got an energy. But this Dancer Tribute, handy. It's going to be huge.
It's a big 3 here.
It's not a good 3.
That's a really poor 3. Federico's deck size was really thin as well. He still had a Dedenne GX in there. Realistically, he really needed Spike Muff. That's like the last piece of the puzzle to get more damage into play here. Oh, he's so close.
He's hitting 70. I mean, what you can do here is escape rope and hope Azul clicks on a Jirachi or Galarian Signature. He probably won't.
Sometimes they click, yeah. That's hilarious.
But And we've all done it. We've all lost games on misclicks, and I don't believe anyone that says they haven't. I mean, Federico clearly agrees it's a good plan, but his hand, there is very little to work with. There's no Spike Muff, there's no... I mean, at least this forces us all to have a switching card for next turn, or an energy. Does he have an energy on the...
Well, he's got the Karate Belt, which is still live.
Yeah, of course.
So he can just attach retreat. Yeah, it would only be the basic energies, but still, yeah.
That would
There's
be an option.
There's no guarantees that there's boss, but it's likely with Azul's hand and deck size at this point.
It's pretty gosh darn likely. That is very upsetting. So you put the Spiritomb to the bench and you go the old-fashioned way, but this isn't how Spiritomb decks work. It is not about building Spike once a turn. It is about the switching with Spike Muff and all of that. Now, this I love because here, what you're basically doing, you're going to put 3 damage counters on a Jirachi and go, right, if you KO the Mew, my Spiritomb is safe. If you KO Spiritomb, well, you never would. You'd go after the Crobat. Okay, fair enough.
You're losing to boss anyway, but you may as well Psi Power.
Yeah,
You've already been stamped, so you may as well Psi Power just in case.
Yeah,
you're playing out of your hand. It seems reasonable. You could Urshifu's already in range of the full 310, so you can't really change that math anyway. He's just trying to map out if there's any other damage counter that can be helpful. He says Crobat's the best way for him. And let's see if Azul can find that boss's orders and switch, or if he can have energy attachment. There's the air balloon, and there's the boss's orders. Wow, what a close series.
Yeah, and unfortunately, the Urshifu's going to come up. Gale Frost the Crobat, and Azul takes an absolute nail-biter of a series.
What a nail-biter. That was Azul just closing it out with that boss's orders. The stamp did just enough. Dancer Tributes not quite getting those combination pieces Andre needed just to close out the game there. It seemed that Azul was just drawing pretty awkwardly, not getting those ideal turns. So many punishes he could have set up, but he wasn't drawing well.